Hey guys, it's Mark with Hawkeye Ordnance. We did a video almost 2 months ago now on getting started in everyday carry, and I did that video, and I think the truth is that I hadn't tested my systems as much as I should have when I did that video. So there were some issues with that. The two main ones both centered around the way I carried my pistol. The first being the inexpensive holster I was using for over-the-waistband carry, and the second was the way I was just sort of riding the pistol in the waistband without a holster or any trigger guard protection. And it was pointed out to me that your first job in a firefight is to get out of it. I mean, I'm not a cop, I'm not a military personnel. My job is to protect myself and my family and exfiltrate from the situation as fast as I possibly can. And a good friend of mine from the Facebook page, Maddie, pointed out that if you're going to run away and you've just got your gun sticking in your waistband, you're never going to be able to, what did he say? Basically what he was saying was that A, you're going to be running away and that thing's going to fall out in your pants, or it's going to get so out of position you're not going to be able to draw it and be effective with it if you get pinned down. So I took that to heart, and I went out and I tried some things. Now, you've seen the review for the Raven Vanguard 2, and if you haven't, go check that out. That has become my favorite in the waistband carry. It gives me the minimalist feel I'm looking for, but still a very easy draw. I mean, the downside to that holster is it's hard to reholster the gun, but in a firefight, in a civilian situation, to be totally honest with you, that is not that high on my priority list, and so cops come and you're going to be disarmed, and that gun's going to be taken away until they figure out what really happened and all that. That's just kind of part of that. And then the second thing was I took that Phobos holster out and started running some drills with it, just like I do for do for 3-gun. And I found it to be really, really difficult to draw from and downright dangerous. So, like today, I'm wearing the Raven Phantom, the over-the-waistband, which I really, really like, and it's super simple to draw from and very comfortable to wear all day. And they're not inexpensive holsters by any stretch. I've probably got $100 in between the two of them. But there's no question that it's improved my everyday comfort, which is what I'm going to notice 99% of the time, and it's greatly improved the functionality of my firearm. So I don't doubt for a second that I would be faster and more proficient if, God forbid, something did happen. So that kind of brings me to, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I've been carrying for about 2 years now, and when I first got my permit to carry, I did sit down and think about the tough questions around that. What has to happen for me to deploy my pistol and even further deploy lethal force? And I think that if we don't ask ourselves these questions and we buy a gun and stick it in our nightstand and never train and never do anything with it, or we're carrying a gun without spending the time to think about these things, if push comes to shove, and again, heaven forbid, you end up in a firefight, you're not mentally prepared for that. And not that you can be 100%, but knowing what is acceptable for you, and it could vary from person to person for deploying lethal force. Because there's almost no doubt, I mean, I live in Minnesota, so go check the laws in your own state, but I guarantee you, especially with the sort of prevailing negative wind around firearms, that in Minnesota, if I deploy my firearm in even the most clear-cut circumstances for justifiable homicide, and that's what it is, let's remember that, that I would be spending probably the night in jail. I would lose my firearm for some period of time, and I would be, at the very, very least, scrutinized deeply for my actions. And I think that at least having some sort of a plan or some sort of just preparation in your mind for, okay, I'm a witness to a purse snatching. Do I draw my gun and shoot over that? Do I draw my gun and try to stop that situation? For me, I've decided probably not. On my force scale, really using lethal force comes down to pretty much to protect myself, my kids, and my family, or bodily harm to somebody else, within my sphere of influence at the time. Because I mean, the reality is I'm a pretty good shot, but you're at McDonald's, you're there with your kids, some freak comes in waving a gun around and wants cash. Now, at that point, do you draw your gun and shoot the guy, or draw your gun in the hopes that he'll de-escalate and leave? I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's so many variables. What's my shot? What's behind the guy? Am I drawing more attention to myself and my kids at that point, or or is this guy going to pull the trigger? And do I need to end this guy's life in order to prevent somebody else dying who doesn't deserve it? And I can't answer that for you. I can barely answer it for myself, but these are some of the thoughts that I've been going through. Just running through a few scenarios. I'm not obsessing about this by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think that with some time and energy and practice, and the more you shoot, I think the more awesome you realize the power you carry around with you every day really is. You can do an awful lot of damage very quickly, and if you're going out and training at all, and that's a whole other topic maybe we should touch today, but if you're training at all, you know that what you're carrying around is could gravely wound, if not kill somebody, and that every now and again you miss, and that miss might end up being a hit on, in the McDonald's scenario, the girl behind the counter who's just really wants to get home that day to go out with her boyfriend or whatever. You could end someone's life. So you've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to train, I think, too, is another thing we gotta go over. So I'm going to say this whether it's popular or not. If you buy a gun for home protection and you just dump it in your nightstand, and that's the last thing you ever do with it until somebody breaks into your house, it's very possible you're a greater danger to your family than you are a protector at that point. If you're not spending the time and energy to, let's just say reasonably on a monthly basis to go out and shoot, make sure that gun is cleaned and serviced and ready to perform for you, and that your skills are at least not totally grotesquely rusty. I mean, I think once a month would be a minimum for that. I'm finding that shooting is a perishable skill, and I mean, you don't forget all the basics, but you certainly aren't at your top form when you haven't shot in a while. So that's one. Now, the second one is if you're carrying a gun and you're not spending at least once a month, and maybe I would say if you plan on carrying it outside of the house, twice a month, that you go out and burn 50 rounds through the gun in order to make sure that your skills are up to snuff, because you're carrying a deadly weapon with you. If you're like me, you carry it wherever you go, and you might very well end up deploying that gun. And again, I really hope not. I carry med stuff too, and I'll be honest with you, so far in 2 years I've deployed my medical stuff, and 3 car accidents, and then I don't know how many scrapes and headaches, but I've never had to pull my gun in public, so thank God for that. But you are definitely taking the responsibility for having that firearm with you, and that includes not leaving it laying around. That includes kind of knowing for yourself what your ability level is, and not being a cowboy. I mean, the last thing we need is another news story where some concealed carry owner pops somebody at the movie theater because they're pissed off about them talking during the show. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyhow, that's my rant. So I know that the Constitution guarantees us the right to bear arms, but I think you would agree with me that is being certainly being challenged. And so, I would argue that, and this is not a law thing, this is just a personal responsibility thing, that we consider collectively the right to carry a privilege as well. It is a right, but it is also a privilege, because we are privileged to protect ourselves and our family like no one else in the world. And that can be taken away from us. So if we treat it like a privilege, and we are responsible, and we carry responsibly, and we choose to deploy our weapons responsibly, we train responsibly, then it's going to be very, very hard for those to argue that we're a bunch of psychos, because that's what they want us to be. It would be so much easier for the progressive community to label us psychos, and when we act like it, all they need is one incident to make us all look stupid. Where we know that 99% of us are good, God-fearing, hard-working family people who just really want to take care of our community, be it at home, be it in their schools, be it, whatever. So, I challenge you guys to step up your own personal training. Take a little time to think about what carrying actually means and the responsibility of that.